our grandfather's generation and back, just being a man of sound character, hardworking, and presentable almost guaranteed that you can at least find a partner to share your life with. Nowadays, it seems like you need to have everything and be everything just to get a date. Times sure have changed, mostly for the better, I would say. But there are some vestiges of the past that I wish we can transfer to modern times, like dating. As for me, I'm already married, but you can't scroll YouTube or social media for too long before you see the word hypergamy, especially if you frequent the manosphere. Google says hypergamy is the practice of marrying or dating someone of a higher social status or sexual capital than oneself. It can also refer to the act of continuously trying to replace a current partner with someone considered superior. Place a pin in that. Now, right at this moment, I want you to think of her. Who is she? You know who I'm talking about. Every time you think of the one that got away, or the one that you regret not taking seriously, the one that came too early in your life before you were ready to settle down, the one that you attempt to look up every so often. When you see her in your mind, it's always that one moment, simple, seemingly ordinary, yet it was so special and significant that years later, your mind and emotions still burn when you daydream of her. If you really think about it, you compare every woman to your idealization of her. Are they ever really good enough? Or does a small part of you feel like you are settling with any ordinary woman who is not her or her likeness? You know the answer to that. Speaking of ideal, Marilyn Monroe was regarded as one of the most beautiful women in the world at one time. Larger than life, a perfect, timeless beauty. As a matter of fact, she is still viewed as one of the most iconic women in film and pop culture, oozing femininity and sex appeal that you can almost feel through the screen. Even to this day, she influences millions of women across the globe in her style of dress, hair, and makeup, with many copying her voice and even mannerisms. Some would say that she is the ideal, the epitome of raw femininity, the standard, just like the woman that I had you reminisce about earlier, the one that your heart is still chasing. I call it chasing the Marilyn, but truthfully, you are not the only one. In hair loss, there's always a Marilyn Monroe. And like the hypergamy that we all love to hate, when it comes to keeping our hair, we are always looking for a newer, bigger, and better replacement. It's like we have an idolization for the next big thing, the solution of solutions that can replace our current ordinary therapeutics, but it never comes. And when we do monkey branch to the next big thing, we find that it wasn't what it was all hyped up to be. Truthfully, you already have the necessary products and tools for a full hair loss recovery at your disposal. You just have to adopt a new strategy to optimize them and hopefully hop off the pharma carousel for good. The reason why we are chasing the Marilyn and practicing hypergamy as men in hair loss is because we are unaware of how to fully utilize the products that we already have. Although we need to keep improving the products and tools on the market and inventing better therapeutics, if used correctly, the current everyday lab-based solutions and even natty would do you just fine. You can absolutely get your original hairline and density back using what we already have or are familiar with just a few minor adjustments. The way I view hair loss is called the path. It's basically a simple theory that states there are 4 pathways or doorways of the cause and effects of hair loss, and they are the following. Immune response. This is the cause of the immune response, such as gluten or gut parasites, and the effects such as inflammation, acne, or hair loss. Hormonal imbalance. This is the cause of the hormonal imbalance, such as inflammation or thyroid issues, and the effects such as DHT overproduction. Vasodilation, circulation. This is the cause of the vasodilation and circulation problem, such as the microinflammation and the narrowing of the vessels or cholesterol buildup therein, and the effects such as follicle starvation and miniaturization. And lastly, mechanical physical. This is the cause of the mechanical physical deterioration, such as the malfunctioning dermal circulatory and lymph system, or the effects such as the plaque dome and fibrosis. When you listen to the cause and effects, you can almost ask what comes first. And when you look at each doorway or pathway, you can say, what door did I actually walk through? That is the point. Our personal triggers dumped us into a perpetual cycle, and we have to find a way to break the pattern. My suggestion is to break the ball and start with the mechanical physical changes first, as all other pathways are much easier to reverse when the scalp is less tense and can actually absorb topicals. See my breaking ball video for more details on that. Although there are 4 doorways or pathways with multiple causes and effects, they all have one thing in common. None of them would exist in you without the trigger. There is no hair loss without the trigger, and without your personal trigger, your hair loss would stop by itself. This is important because hair loss hypergamy states that there's always something newer, bigger, and better that would eventually come to our rescue and sweep us off of our feet, and we'll live happily ever after. We imagine it's right around the corner and the FDA will approve it this decade, when the solution is probably already in our fridge or should be. The trigger is in the gut and shouldn't be. I firmly believe that for most of us, the trigger solution is between Amazon, Walmart, and the grocery store, not the pharmacy, respectfully. Androgenic alopecia, like all other alopecias, is an autoimmune response, and most of them are internal in nature. If you haven't been attacked on the outside, i.e. a bug bite, then it's an inside job. When you think trigger, think diet. Something is there that doesn't belong, or something is missing that does. This is why supplementation and blood work is very important. I believe if you don't do anything else but eliminate the trigger point, you will at least keep the hair that you have. No hair loss, hypergamy needed. In some cases, hypergamy makes a lot of sense. As a matter of fact, it makes total sense from a genetic historical adaptation for women. Finding a suitable partner that will provide protection and provision and assist with child rearing, or at least able to provide the stability for successful child rearing. I believe this is inherited, and Marilyn Monroe was no different. She had a typical childhood, but when her mom became ill, she became property of the state and lived with several families. By 16, she would marry, but it only lasted for a few years. Soon after, she would become sort of a pin-up magazine model and was pretty good at it, but she wanted more. Hollywood was calling, and through her natural gifts, hard work, and dedication to her craft, fate would answer. As far as hair loss, we've been waiting for quite a long while to get the answer as well. Therefore, we find ourselves hoping and wishing that this new company or institute or discovery will finally cure hair loss. But I can tell you this with all certainty, I would not hold my breath, and here's why. You cannot cure something that does not exist. Hair loss is closer to a symptom than a disease in itself. Although it's common knowledge that hair loss can have multiple causes, we are still looking for that one pill a day or one shot a month that can keep our mains full. That is the biggest issue with hair loss actually. Unrealistic expectations because we don't want to see the writing on the wall. The company that removes all balding genes out of the gene pool or can epigenetically upgrade your DNA in real time will be the only cure. Everyone else, no matter how prestigious or fancy, large, and in charge, if they are commerce-based and product-focused, will, at most, create a product blocking the doorways. That's not a cure. That's a therapeutic. Knowing this, being hypergamous in hair loss solutions is just setting yourself up to be let down, man. Again, how can they cure your allergy to dairy that slowly erodes your stomach lining or causes microinflammation that doesn't show up for years? There's a better way, and if we're on the same page, I am simply the digital avatar reminding you of what you know already. No one is coming to save you, man. And when they do, and that is highly unlikely, they will benefit greater. You will more than likely have dependency. Who wants a one-shop, one-and-done product? Every business in this world wants repeat customers. It's not a conspiracy, it's commerce. Do you really think one guy in the US with limited resources, internet, and a bit of desperation can accomplish what I have, but companies and institutions with millions of dollars at their disposal are unaware? You have to do it yourself, but remember, you are not curing a disease, you are simply making repairs on your scalp. That turns the nearly impossible to very possible. Think of all the products that exist on the market, all of the ones that YouTubers get excited about, the social media posts. Think of all the ads that come across your screen. 9 times out of 10, it's a Norwood 4 that maybe reverts back to a Norwood 2, maybe 1 using what we already have on the market today. Or it's a transplant that was held up in place by finasteride. It's not the products, it's the efficacy, it's their properties and purpose. So if you do decide to practice product or solution hypergamy, it should actually be superior or greater than your current partner in hair loss, not just sizzle or marketing. Look at it this way. As far as natural hair restoration, you want to remove what causes hair loss or the telogen stage and add or maximize what creates hair growth or the anagen stage. So what should you attempt to remove from the 3 dermal layers with your protocol using tools, topicals, and internal therapeutics? Besides the trigger, calcification, plaque, and fibrosis, infection, irritation, and inflammation, DHT, cortisol, and adhesion glue, which is probably cholesterol. That's it. That's exactly what we are doing here. And what do you want to add or maximize to help transition an alpha scalp to an omega 1? Vasodilation, circulation, and nutrition. That's simple. Over the weeks or months, and depending on the severity level and how long you have been experiencing hair loss, it may take years. Regardless, simple tools, common household products, and our current known therapeutics are really all that we need. Time considerations and consistency is going to be the hardest part. Your hair loss regimen and protocol is going to be boring, steady, loyal, and consistent. Simple tools, common products. It will not be a quick fix. It won't give you the fuzzies. Think of it like the stoic men of old that I opened with in this video. Steady and consistent. You will see results, and no hair loss hypergamy is needed. Now, if a part of you feels like you're settling for what you have now, and there has to be something, newer, bigger, and better to rescue you, it won't. Don't chase the Marilyn. So what would a simple and basic stack that would begin changing your prostate-dominated alpha scalp to a uterine-dominated omega scalp capable of restoring old follicles? Here's what you may consume. Daily DHT blocker. You can actually use topical or both. Multivitamin and or supplementation based on your blood work, gut health, pre and probiotics. There's much more to this, but those are the basics. The topicals: antibacterial, antifungal, anti-inflammatory, anti-plaque and fibrosis, antioxidants, a stimulant, and nutrition that is absorbable by the body. Those are the functions that you need. And lastly, the regimen. Monday, perhaps you derma roll 1.5, use a stimulant or solution during the process or after. Tuesday, rest. Wednesday, electric massaging the scalp. Thursday, perhaps a derma stamp or scalp peeling. On Friday, you rest. On Saturday, hijama or cupping. Sunday, rest. Keep in mind that you want to use medicated shampoos. I use a combination of Nizoral for psoriasis and T-gel shampoo with salicylic acid and treat my scalp as if I have a bad case of dermatitis, psoriasis, folliculitis, because in many ways I actually do. I will create a video on why that is the case. Scalp exfoliation and peeling are essential to releasing the follicle quarantine. If this is missing, you may keep the hairs that you have, but regrowth may not be on auto start. Now this is a very basic regimen, but notice it covers all pathways and doorways of hair loss. That is what you are after. No matter if you go natty or use human ingenuity products, as long as they are accounted for and you are not destroying your own immune system in your diet or habits, you will begin not only to halt hair loss, but produce villus hairs that will eventually go terminal. You want to exchange or add stronger therapeutics and find a way to make it easily absorbable and or processed by the body consistently. Practice sound and purposeful product hypergamy. As Marilyn moved up into the higher echelons of society and becoming the face of Hollywood at her time, you can say that she practiced hypergamy and dated wealthier, more famous men. However, at the end of her life, none of them quite worked out. It reminds you of the latest and greatest in hair loss that typically amount to nothing. If it's not genetic in nature, then it's probably not newer, bigger, or better, but simply a current therapeutic rehashed. Jumping on every, trend will leave you the equivalent of boxed wine and cats in the future. If you recall at the beginning of this video, I asked you to reminisce about your personal Marilyn that got away, but truthfully, it was the setup for this moment of clarity. In the grand scheme of things, she never really got away. You were not meant to experience life with her. As heart-wrenching as that sounds, it releases you from the what ifs. No, you wouldn't have lived happily ever after. And no, your life would not have been peaches and cream if she wore your ring. Like the mindset in hypergamy, she is not superior. You just have romanticized what you have wanted things to be like. Even if she checked all the marks and was perfect for you, that may have been a handicap. All of the trials and tribulations that you went through have actually made you a better man, even for her. Like Norma Jean, better known as Marilyn Monroe, a hard early life or hardship sometimes pushes you into greatness, forces you to become a stronger, more resilient version of yourself. Without her trials and tribulations, we wouldn't even know who she is. But one thing I am certain of, you already have everything you need to become the best version of yourself inside and out. Like, share, comment, and subscribe, as iron sharpens iron and we only have each other. And remember, if I can do it, you all can do it too. Let's get you back to the barber.